Welcome back to Final Trade. If you spend any amount of time on the internet reading financial news or investment advice or things like that, you will eventually see either in the articles themselves or in the mud pits of comment sections of those articles the phrase catching the falling knife. And what the phrase, the metaphor is intended to mean is that when an asset is falling in value, it's like a knife that's falling. And you obviously, if you drop a knife in real life, you don't want to reach out and try to grab it in midair. You want to let it hit the floor, and then you can just safely lean down and pick up the knife. And so people will often use this falling knife metaphor in the context of I will not catch a falling knife, or in investing, never catch a falling knife. And it's like they're trying to warn you against buying an asset whose value is going down. And instead, what they're implicitly implying is that you should wait until the knife is done dropping, and then you can just safely pick up that asset. You can buy it once it's bottomed out. And of course, there's a fallacy going on here, which is you cannot know at the time where it will stop falling. This is not like a knife you drop while you're cleaning them in your kitchen and you know it's going to stop on the kitchen floor. When you're talking about an asset, it may drop another 10% or 20 or 80%. And you never know. I mean, in the case of commodities, like we saw with oil in 2020, it can go to negative prices. So there is that conceit in there that, hey, I'll just know when to buy. And maybe it's not even a conceit. Maybe it's that the people who use this phrase never even stop to think, when would I know to buy? How do I know when it's bottomed? And of course, you don't know. And so what you need to do is think to yourself, well, was I happy paying, say in the case of some reserve list card, was I happy paying $40 for a near mint raw copy of this card 6 months ago? Yes. Okay. Would I be happy paying $35? Oh yeah. Well, what if it drops to 30 tomorrow? Will I be happy that I paid 30 today? You might feel a little unhappy, but when you bought today at 35 and it drops to 30 tomorrow, you didn't know today at 35 that it was going to drop to 30. It could have jumped to 50 tomorrow. And so you have to make that decision to buy or sell an asset at that moment in time. You never get to go back in time and redo it. And so, there is a particular reserve list card I love that I've been buying copies of for a long time. And I bought them at 45, I bought them at 40, 35, 30. Now I'm buying them at 25, all for the same near mint copies, raw copies. And I'm perfectly happy with that because I know that 5 years from now, it'll be a $60 or $80 or $100 card. 10 years from now, it'll be a $150 or $200 card. It's not going to go to zero. It's not going to become worthless. And the same thing when you're talking about shares of some companies, because you often see the warning not to catch a falling knife in the context of buying stocks. So when you look at companies like IBM or Exxon or Johnson and Johnson, companies that are 100% going to be around 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. Yeah, you can safely buy those stocks even though the current trend of the stock price may be negative. Maybe you'll hit it at the bottom. You probably won't, but in 5 years it's going to be way higher than it is today, and you won't worry about those tiny differences. And the thing is, when people go on and on about, oh, don't catch a falling knife, I'm not a sucker who tries to reach out and catch a falling knife. What it means is that they don't invest when the price is falling and they don't invest when it's low. Instead, they'll logically wait until it's bottomed, it's turned upward, and it has upward momentum. And then they jump in once the price is rising. And of course, again, if this is an asset you plan to hold for 5, 10, 20 years, and it's a good company or it's a good quality collectible that has real investable value, then that may be safe. But if you had just bought it on the way down and then on the way back up, your average price is going to be lower. And so I feel like it's one of those problems of human psychology where we look at a downward trajectory of an asset's price and we're so afraid of losing money that we will just not buy it, even though it's a great price and it's cheaper than what we might have been buying it for happily 6 months ago. So don't be so illogical. uh, don't fear catching the falling knife. It's a great time to buy when things are going down, and just ask yourself, is this realistically going to zero? Odds are no. There are very few assets that will go to zero on most any timeline. And so don't worry about that. And when you see somebody on the internet warning you not to catch a falling knife, it's really nice, because then you can kind of ignore that person's opinions on finance and investing in those subjects. So they're kind of doing you a favor. So if you like this kind of content, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join me on Final Trade. Thanks a lot.